Good evening. Welcome to Conversations in the Void. I'm your host, Joshua Von Ammon, and joining us tonight is Brendan Carroll. Brendan Carroll attended the Providence College, where he received a bachelor's in psychology in '03, and later on went to receive his MFA from the Maryland Institute College of Art in 2011. He lives and works in Atlanta, Georgia, where he has driven all the way from Atlanta to be with us today. Thank you for being with us, Brendan.
Sure.
So I guess we'll just start off. The reason predominantly that you're in town, you have a show at Homeland Security in South Dallas. That opened just a couple days ago and will close March 23rd. I suppose, you're the first person, at least, that's been on this show that has a background in psychology or let's say a non-art background that found their way into art making. And there's a pretty large gap between your bachelor's degree and your master's degree. I was hoping you might talk a little bit about, that evolution that occurred.
Sure. When I went to college, I was pretty much certain that I was going to be a psychologist or a clinical psychologist and do psychology research. And while I was there, I started painting. I had been drawing and making sculptures through high school, but never really understood how one could make a living as an artist or what it would look like to be a working artist. So I just assumed that my career would be something within the sciences. So while I was at school, my major was in psychology, but I was taking all of my art classes because it was just something that I enjoyed. And there, I first kind of met professors that were people that spent their life within the arts, and I first saw what it looks like to be someone whose life is dedicated to making art, and that you can be an artist full time. And when I graduated, I kind of felt like I might want to consider art as a career, but I really didn't know what that looks like. I really didn't know how you do that. I really didn't know if I was any good, whether that would be a possibility for me. So I took my degree in psychology and moved to New York, and I got a job in a research lab in Columbia, or at Columbia. And I worked in a brain imaging research lab there, and I mostly did neuroscience research there. And that gave me a way to make a living, but then also to be in a city where I was surrounded by artists, surrounded by museums, galleries, and people within the contemporary art making and painting scene there. And as much as I was pretty sure when I wasn't in New York that I wasn't a strong painter, when I got to New York, I was 100% sure that I was not a very good painter. And so for 5 years, I would go to work at Columbia in the research lab there, and I would be painting when I came home and going to galleries and meeting with artists and trying to figure out what being a working artist looked like. And after those 5 years, I had kind of gotten to myself to a point where I felt at least secure enough in my work that I could apply for graduate school, and transitioned really to just considering myself an artist. And really, I would say that any of my previous life within the sciences is kind of gone. The reasons the things I was interested in investigating as a psychologist are still present in my work, but I would consider myself just a painter now.
Mm-hmm. And you'd said to me earlier, that with psychology, and that research process, that painting was kind of the same thing, but you could do it quicker?
Right.
Something like that?
Yes. I think one of the things I became frustrated within the sciences is there are things that I was interested in researching, which were basically just that I wanted to know, how do people perceive their experiences? How do they describe their experiences? And how do those descriptions tell us something about who they are? Mm-hmm. What do people tend to leave out of their stories? What do people choose to emphasize? What can they leave out, or what do they put more importance on? And different people from different circumstances tend to relate the same story differently. And in the sciences, you're writing grants, you're doing research, you're meeting with research subjects, you're going through all these procedures, and the steps are very long and drawn out and incremental, and sometimes, we've got a great idea that just simply can't ever get pulled together because of funding or just research problems. Within painting, I found that I could do what I was interested in with myself, at least, as somebody, describing what they're interested in a very fast manner. And I saw that there was a great number of painters that I loved that were interested in those same things that were painting. And I started to just see what I was interested in a much more concrete, understandable manner than I saw it within the sciences.
So a lot of your process, I mean, would you say is somehow self-investigative? Investigative, is that the proper term?
I think so, sure, yeah. And I think, maybe it's not necessarily self-investigative insofar as, I wouldn't say that anything that I do is related to a personal story or anything like that. But I am the one making the paintings, and they're not about someone else's stories, and they're not relating a narrative of, a specific event or something that's related to me. But they are my point of view, at least. So they're relating a description of what I'm interested in that comes from me. So
I think that, I would describe your paintings in a lot of ways as painters' paintings, this sense of abstraction, very gestural marks, has a lot of dialogue perhaps with the abex and then neo-expressionism in some respects. And you had talked about there being a lot of sort of layering and coding that, as a painter, when I approach paintings, and I think many other artists do as well, is sort of decoding process. There's a familiarity with, how maybe this could have been made, and then you try to work backwards, and that's how, another individual experiences it. You had made some comment earlier today about, something that interested you is two people could experience one situation completely differently. And, that's certainly something that's investigated thoroughly in psychology and, comes into play as far as a device in conversation with your work. Your newest show that we mentioned at Homeland Security, is this body of work, this is from this last year? Can you talk a little bit about, that work specifically? And
sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't mention the name of that show. It was...
Windows, Walls, and Screens, which is really a reference to painting paradigms and how painting has been described, particularly spatial relations within painting. So the language that I'm dealing with within these works and what you're seeing in these paintings is really painting. It's really about painting. So, as much as I have some experiences within a science, I would say that really everything that you're seeing within these paintings exists within a very specific painting language. So Windows, Walls, and Screens is a relation to how at one point paintings were seen as creating a space within a wall that we could then see an illusion of a larger space. So, you think of romantic painters, you think of even Hudson Valley River School painters, paintings that were meant to be put on a wall and that would grant you access to an illusion of a much larger space beyond that painting plane. Then, when modernism was kind of being extolled, there was this idea that painting was not to do that, was not to provide you the illusion of something like a window. It was meant to really be concretized into something like a wall, flatness was kind of extolled. So I was kind of thinking today, mostly what I see is how people take in information as something in between those two phenomenons of illusion and reality. And mostly people seem to get their information through some kind of screen. That's how we kind of perceive our environment. So whether that's a computer screen or something like that, So you're looking through a device to see something else. So the paintings that I'm making and the ones that are in this show are mostly about looking through something that obscures what could possibly be behind it. And in some instances, there's a wide open view to seeing a larger, more illusionistic space, and in some instances it's almost totally obliterated, and you're having a very difficult time seeing any kind of deep space. But I'll say that these are abstract paintings, so those illusionistic spaces are abstract spaces. They're not going. It's not going. They look like an abstract painting. They don't look like a romantic rendering of a landscape or something like that.
Excellent. Well, we're about to run out of time, so I do want to wrap up. Just a couple last points about this show. First of all, it's fantastic that you had the opportunity to come down here and do that.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Dallas.
And welcome. What did you think?
I want to see more of it. I've eaten 1 million tacos, and they've all been delicious, and I'm hungry for more.
Well, I guess that pretty much wraps it up. Please stay tuned for our very gifted musical performance, and I trust you'll enjoy it. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
I'll keep on the sunny side, they say. So the sun is better than the rain, and the blue sky's no more than a canvas, the clouds and the pictures they paint. They say throw your eyes to heaven, 'cause the fire beneath your feet will never grow cold. Well, my soul is in the rock, and my heart, it got rolled. And I will take no more wooden nickels. Carnival is leaving town. I will put my trust in nobody, so nobody will let me down. So nobody will let me down. Say it's easier to forgive than forget. Well, I say that's candy cigarettes. I guess it's easier to pretend, say it never happened, but it did. And I will take no more wooden nickels. Carnival is leaving town. I will put my trust in nobody, so nobody will let me down. I'll keep on the sunny side, they say, that the sun is better than the rain, and the blue sky's no more than a canvas for the clouds and the pictures they paint. And the blue sky's no more than a canvas for the clouds and the pictures they paint.